Chilly here with Sirius, Taurus, Moon, Jupiter, our Jupiter night, no, Venus night, and Ascendant, 10 degrees Aries, midheaven, 6 degrees Capricorn. I want to talk about something, and this is regarding a video that will be posted in 2 days. I've accentuated 1325 decision of Security Council to be having a Saturn return in 2030 while we're going to have Ketu conjoining Sedna. And I'll begin with telling a little story. So I studied in Department of Politics and Governance in the courses that had to do with violence during war or during social changes. There were women that were saying, oh well, sexual boundary violation happened in those times. But this is the reality of life. It it doesn't sound like a bad argument. It doesn't sound like a silly argument. But there are thresholds. And in Beta Per Se, we see those thresholds. Just as the threshold before the First and Second World War was a wave of suffragists that could not be undone. John D. Rockefeller, people say, oh, he was pragmatic, he was this, he was that. Annika Lucas describes the time where she was tortured in one of the extortion cults associated with Rothschild and Rockefeller. And suddenly, something happened to her, and John D. Rockefeller had a spiritual experience, after which he said it changed the trajectory. This type of interventions do exist even in the most calculated environments. I was just watching a short of a German officer that saved, I think, almost 1,000 people from the concentration camp. The threshold that I'm sensing around the particular, and I saw it with Uranus Beta Per Se. Did I see it as much with Sedna? I saw it around me more than I saw it within me. With Uranus Beta Per Se, I really sensed it. This one took down, this one and Uranus Sedna in Gemini took down Israel's credentials on a military level, on an intelligence level, when it came to sexual boundary violations. It also took down Hamas. But it was around the son of Israel and the ninth house of Israel. And by the way, the Urano Beta Persei was more within. It was more, oh, what Israel did, let's say, in Palestine. The Uranus Sedna was already in Gemini with the October War, but the Uranus Sedna was the fiasco with the French, which was already the ninth house, the world. By the way, we're going to have Ketu on the Mars of Israel, which is also still pinpointing, I think, IDF and Mossad. Yes, if I try to think, when did I have Ketu on my Mars? It was when Ra was with Beta Persei. And this Ketu, how should I say, I was the person to always bless an enemy. With this Ketu, I remember myself saying, I'm a person to always bless an enemy. If something happens, I usually, like, it's not that I don't suffer or not hurt, but I do not wish my enemies to be my enemies, not because of me. Again, not because of me. I was the person to bless him, and one of the things that I saw very clearly was the need to defend myself in the face of basically assassination. A lot of the putting the evident global extinction possibility on the table, now that I reflect back, is a result of that trajectory. We're not doing that, let's say, let's just say, oh, extinction of the lineage, discontinuation of the lineages that rape, except for those who do not rape, is not there for that particular thing to happen in that particular way. It's a juncture that triggers a catharsis where the patterns of sexual boundary violation in the lineage are going through an expiration date where, and I saw it clearly with Raul Beta Persei, it's like people will have to let go of these patterns or the they themselves would be dematerialized. Like those that hold on to rape culture so much, they will be, I saw it already back then. Only now I recall. Just like the possibility of global human extinction is not there for the extinction to happen right this very moment. It's there for the alchemical, cathartic purgatory of the things that would cause such extinction to be dematerialized. Is a shifting from blessing an enemy to, at the point where blessing an enemy is not possible, to bring the trajectory of, let's say, how should I say that? If a doctor has to remove a plaster, a band-aid, they best work in depending on the situation of the wound, either in a very slow and tender, or if it is in other circumstances, one swift move. So both ways, we're not supposed to have any prolonged suffering. That was the call for action with Ketu on my Mars. So now what is Israel called to do? I don't know. Like, now that I think about it. Mars, Leo, Sun, 8th house. And let me tell you something for the people that think that, let's say, changing Netanyahu, because he's the leader, Sun is leader, would change the entire trajectory. First of all, they can do that with elections. Secondly, the occult around elections. The occult around elections was playing into the hands of the demise of Israel. It means it would have to change the strategy that was fixed. We are very likely subjected to have a change of leadership. What did we have in 1997? It was the aftermath of Rabin. It was the aftermath of Rabin. I think we had another intifada, and Benjamin Netanyahu was coming to be the leader. So this would be a Ketu return. And then I think about around the Me Too, we would have the Rahu Mars. Ooh, I think that the weird occult stuff that they did began there in a different way. They kind of changed the occult strategy around elections. And now they're going to have to purge it. And if I think back, when was Rahu with Mars? By the way, I ran into a chart that had a Rahu Mars with me when Ketu was around my Mars. Israel is very likely to run into some sort of a situation where something's going to Rahu Mars, which means argument. It can be with some sort of a royal or a monarchy. Now, I think since the Rahu Leo, we had very unstable governments. But that was also Uranus in Taurus. Particularly Uranus around the Son of Israel. We had so much elections that we thought were going to be Nazi Germany. Just because of the structure of not having a stable government, which is a risk for dictatorship. Not even talking about the COVID effect. I cannot address the irony I'm broadcasting from Israel. Okay. um, yeah. Uranus, Uranus. Why Uranus? Why? Because it squares Uranus. Oh, Uranus is sextiling. Israel's Uranus is sextiling. Is sextiling this configuration, let's say. And by the way, Mars-Uranus sextile is a very good combination. It allows people to be rebellious, revolutionary, unpredictable, and congruent at the same time, particularly when you have fixed sign Mars. Is consistently innovating. Unfortunately, it's still Mars in Leo, which is, yeah, it's a very potent Mars, but it runs all the risks of being too hot planet in a too hot planet ruled sign. Excess heat, excess inflammation, excess yang. Although Sun is in the Yin sign, and also Venus, I believe. Well, Venus is in Leo, I don't remember. It's also going to be Ketu on the Mars of Trump, which means we are expected to see Trump fatedly change his strategy. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? Because right now his strategy is leading him to being a, how should I say that? I remember in Lebanon there were, not in Lebanon, there were the Jordanian Fadayuns that were a distraction. So he's being Fadayuns in Greenland that allows Ataturk, Ataturk, to code orange. And I'm not saying Erdogan is going to code orange, but I'm not saying, I mean, if you have a Fadayun in Greenland, Mars is in Gemini, okay? Can I have a Mars in Gemini pardon card? um, and that means that his strategy is about to completely shift. Now, if I try to think about Trump of 97, when was The Apprentice? Trump of around. By the way, Trump of the before and after the Me Too. People were not. Charlie from Communism on Command did a breakdown of the way Trump handled the media, and he predicted Trump will win. Nobody. I was in politics and governance. Nobody predicted Trump will win. And that was the first elections. Um, Now Trump still has Uranus Gemini, which means it would also be something innovative, rebellious, unpredictable. I know there is an entire European Union and Japan that is like, come on. Now because it's Donald Trump, I don't know if they maybe should watch what they wish for. um, Shifts in the Mossad we had with Raoul. The Kadention, there was a guy that was the head of the Mossad between something like 2016 to 2021. Okay, the 7th October war happened in 2023. Let me tell you something. I'm kind of sure he's masking. That was changes in the intelligence forces. And recently there was a change of, I don't know if they've already picked the new head of Mossad or Shabak or ISIS or I don't know. Which means that Israel's intelligence is going to shift strategy. But also Israel itself is going to shift strategy, and also Israel's military is going to shift strategy. For example, one of the things that we saw with the threats of infiltration through Aqaba is that the jump of the forces was immediate. Also conquering certain things in Lebanon that I guess mean a lot to people. I have no idea what they're doing there. But it's like they haven't been there in 26 years, and it doesn't look like they're going to immediately leave, although Ketu Mars can bring a little bit of maybe even a forced break in war. Wouldn't count that would last to past 2030, but that can mean that Israel might be forcibly ejected out of Lebanon or Iran. Now, here's a view of astrology when we talk about world policies. A lot of people talk about, oh, we already went into Gaza, we should have that, when we saw what happened in the one time that was applied. With Uranus going right between where it was between 39 to 41, which is an astrological configuration. Now, astrologically speaking, that was those were the years of Uranus Meta per se. Israel put a sun there. What can I say? Declaration of Independence. Um, and and there are things like the eclipse nodes, or nodes changing sign, or outer planets ingressing, where, oh, that was the window of opportunity, that was what could be achieved within that window of opportunity. NATO was criticized for not activating Article 5 and so on and so forth. There are also astrological considerations. You start with a growing moon, it might not be a putsch. You start with a decreasing moon, you have to ask, what are the cycles? For example, a decreasing moon on a set of eclipses that's only beginning could be a problem. Um, 7th of October started with a closing moon. So we're finalizing something. When had that thing started? I don't know. And it was a Mars return for Israel, so it was a closing moon, but with a Mars return, which means not a putsch, at least 2.5 year cycle, because which is exactly what it was with the Mars cycle. Right, it was a Mars return for Israel. War with Iran, I don't remember. Ukraine war started with Pluto, I think on the 22nd degree. Remember, it was February 22nd or February, because it was around the lunar return of the United States, the Pluto return of the United States. But and by the way, I was supposed to study Uranian astrology. It fell flat because Uranian astrology was used in the Second World War for when would places be bombed. But instead, and by the way, Uranian astrology is not a sign-based astrology; it's an aspect-based astrology. And up until then, I did a lot of my astrological work was about aspects. I learned synastries and composites from the teachings of Joule, which was literally truth in aspect astrology. Now, there was a weird ritual that happened when I was trying to study with Michael O'Brien, Uranian astrology. Um, then began all the weird stuff, and he was trying to locate me, and then the communication wasn't a cut off. Um, and it would have been my Rao return. I was supposed to study, I think, Kabbalistic Tarot or something. I never got to it. Just think about the gap between that and everything that I'm talking about now. So I reached 7th of October with this chart. I had to do a horary chart for going to the grocery store to buy bread to see if it's safe. Um, I can't even say because we still had internet, because I began to remember the moons. So you kind of have a picture of the chart with while under torture. um, Yeah. Um, um, as a civilian. Now, oh, what are we expected with Rao in the fifth house of Israel is a big question because it's going to be around Deneb Algedi. 97, 97, 96. And then 2017. 2017, 16, 17, there was a beginning of the Epstein trials. And a Wikipedia, not a Wikipedia, WikiLeaks. Because WikiLeaks had also had a Wikipedia section. 97, 96. Was it not the case with that guy that was supposed to get in prison for litigation? Now Benjamin Netanyahu is having the same for the Jerusalem. These buildings in Jerusalem that look like they're gonna, like, I would be afraid to invest in such a project. It looks like it's gonna 9/11 on itself. No, what was it? Not Borg. It was not Borg. Oh God. So now Benjamin Netanyahu is having one of those litigations. I think also there was this religious guy that was there for taxation and kind of like corruption related stuff. The Huzakai, the one that claimed to be. um, when was the Jonathan Halo case? And why do I feel like it has something to do with that? No, 2000. He was convicted 2013. Oh, 2016. He received. Oh, okay. So Jonathan Halo was basically um, blackmailed and assaulted, sexually assaulted, and then and he did not have any criminal record, but he murdered the guy that raped him, and then basically he was 2016, which would have been Rahu. His punishment was shortened to killing rather than homicide. So from life sentence to supposed to be 10 years. I don't know why he got 12. 12 should have been the maximum punishment for basically killing, for accidental killing. Why did he get 12? Is a telltale, and I kind of feel that the Ketu was going to address this. First of all, it's a crime against humanity because sexual boundary violation is a crime against humanity. I think the world is not prepared for this. Um, And this is where he got the pardon, but he didn't get the pardon even. And Reuben Rivlin, which was the president, said that the pardon is not supposed to be um, another point of, how should I say that, another appeal. Although the pardon inherently is the final attempt to appeal. That's the inherent structure of a pardon. It's practically, okay, it's kind of like de facto. Now, this topic called midatiyut, okay, the principle in jurisdiction that talks about the intensity of the offensive, is something that I predict Israel will have to face, but not only Israel, also is particularly pinpointing Mars of Donald Trump. So it might be relevant, might like something around that can be. Because I noticed Jonathan was coming up for so many times, and I'm like, why? Now, I began and opened this episode with the surging waves that is almost like a Krakatoa. And this is where people may call it the shifting of the timelines. Now, here's the thing about timelines. Let's say a particular timeline, I don't know, let's take a simple case. Somebody dates somebody and say, oh, they want to pick the timeline where they are happy with that person. Very scary. Too specific. Because if the circumstances align, what does it mean happy with that person? And then there are things that are non-negotiables. Now we're reaching the time where certain things are non-negotiables that before were considered utopia, but they were always non-negotiable. It's kind of like the world could not even operate. I believe that the row with Dana Balghetti is gonna have, let's say, something to do with that. Because we're talking in terms of timelines and there is a Pluto co-present, okay, there is um, people will have atomic reaction to the purging of the timelines to do with Leo. For example, before the Epstein files dropped, there was a risk of A-bombs going boom. So it has a dual effect where people would drop an A-bomb on attempt to silence them simply because it's a life threat, okay? It is basically inflammation or attempts to harm them, and then to prevent that A-bomb, 30 million drop. So if people thought to use the A-bomb as, let's say, the diversion tactic, they suddenly could run into timelines where, wait, nobody brought that up before on that topic. This is something that we're going to see with Rahu co-present with Pluto in Aquarius. There is the topic of the way that in jurisdiction they considered sexual boundary violation as they call it midas, calls kind of like a slip or a mistake. Now we have both the understanding of the nervous system hack and the rituals that are pertaining to everyone involved, but we also have the around the meter we had the serial nature of, which gave us the precedence of the right of the public to know over any other consideration in the juristic procedure, particularly the name of or reputation of the offender. Um, for example, if Israel has to address what happened with the French boat or the French ship, they can't use the same arguments of a slip or a. Now, that's a preliminary case. The immunity of politicians, remember, people that escape any sort of human trafficking are entitled to full immunity. Now, what happens if what they escape is, or the offenders that they're escaping from were in interface, let's say, with the Epstein, that was in interface with governments, that was in interface with the intelligence. Pluto Rahu is a great time to mention extremes. So I'm going to talk about extremes. A person can literally drop an A-bomb, and because they're escaping by that, the, let's say, MK Ultra or MK Often program, just by the merit of them attempting to escape, taking that action, they basically are entitled to full immunity. Okay, the extreme case gives us a little bit of a sense of the law. Now, these are also people that the accessibility to, let's say, the juristic procedure, and these are also people that are claustrophobic, that are agoraphobic. And there's also people that may have floaters, that may have been dissociated with aviation alerts. Jupiter is about to oppose Pluto until end of July. Jupiter is aviation, Pluto is to completely rejuvenate from the core. Leo is sign of royal related airlines. um, anything that has the color of this of Jupiter is can be yellow or purple. Color of the sun, yellow or gold. So aviation with the color yellow or gold or purple are particularly susceptible to be rejuvenated from, in insurance, car insurance, vehicle insurance, totalos. um, Pluto is sign of Aquarius. It can be above, kind of like the type of science buildings, big trade buildings, global airport, something very big, but also very sciencey, very techy. Big tech buildings, investment conglomerates, um, and something that can be the head of the top of the headquarters of, I'm not saying Pentagon, I'm not saying Pentagon, but something of such significance. Why? Because Pluto is power of a conglomerate of, so it can be tech, it can be intelligence, it can be money related, it can be occult related. If there is any hidden occult related, it can be kind of like, because Saturn is so far from Neptune, keeping it classified, I think, would be a challenge when Jupiter exits the opposition with Pluto. Um, Aviation in general is very risky. Um, the type of marine forces that the plane, it's ultimately the same, okay? I don't know how to say that. Oh, particularly because they are, United States have, okay, with United States, basically, the Nimitz and the Ford have all nuclear energy engine. Nuclear is Neptune, Pluto. Neptune can be wave, Jupiter is the aviation, Neptune Aries can be the ignition, okay, the both the landing but also the lift. um Uranus Gemini can still be in a city, twin city, bombing in a city or bombing on a city. I'm not saying twin bombs. I know that Trump was thinking that. We all saw that Trump was thinking that. Um, yes, it's basically a ship that is kind of like a little airport. Aircraft carrier warship, the flight deck. Um, if there is any shipping of aircraft, yeah, um, deployment of air forces, planes can go boom because Jupiter and Uranus are in agreement. It can be nuclear boom. I'm not saying planes are going to drop bombs, but there can be accidents regarding that. Okay, Uranus here is also Pluto. Aries can be a mind hack. Uranus is an explosive to do with technology. Um, headquarters of, heads of military, headquarters of anything that I previously said, hidden heads of. Shadow governance? I don't know. Jupiter Leo. Now, the cause for such things have to do with Leo, which is kind of anything harming the feminine. And feminine, again, it can be lower ranks, it can be the technicians, it can be if there is any racial issues with this Saturn Mars within even the team that operates things. Pluto here can be ergogores, tech ergogores. And Pluto can be the power of the timeline or the power of the egregore, but with Jupiter opposing it. So it can be the power of the egregore versus the fact that anything Jupiterian is scheduled to have a complete rejuvenation from the core. So our beliefs, there is a saying that says you cannot win a war from the air. This is a belief that can be rejuvenated from the core. Okay? Um, more beliefs. I think with Jupiter Ketu, even the beliefs that we had around eclipses. I talked in the previously about Ketu Maga. I said that the belief that people can have a stand-in for, let's say, the leader is not going to be suffice because they have to honor the feminine to not, I'm not saying lose their head, but to not lose mandate of heaven. I think that we're going to see that more congruent or more applied. Again, I don't necessarily mean it's death of anybody, simply that the okay, can literally be, let's say, winning or losing the elections according to. More things to think about. Jupileo, Jupileo. So I said aircraft, I said beliefs about, eclipses, beliefs about war and aviation. Beliefs around religion and its role, religion versus esoterics. The religion of the leaders versus the esoterics of the headquarters of. This is giving a little bit of monarchy and aristocracy versus Templars and bankers type of um, and in opposition, it's the how should I say, it's the kind of confrontations where both sides transform. The beliefs of the monarchy, beliefs about what Jupiter is ruling Rahu, but will soon be ruling Lilith. Now is the time to apply anything that I said about the book of Genesis. I cannot stress that enough, particularly when the still it's going to be in 23 degrees, but let's say dishonoring the woman that would not be subjugated could collapse, and the world, the world. Or is it an empire? No, Neptune is in the decan of Aries, which is the world, the foundations of the world. Degree 4 is foundation. The 4 pillars of the world. Let me think about this. Interesting. It's like the world. It's kind of like the world is worlding, but at least it's interesting astrology. Interesting times to be alive in. The